What's going on, everybody? This is Derek J407, and I'm here to give you my thoughts and opinions on the latest New Japan Pro Wrestling show, Dominion 2019, in Osaka Jo Hall, of course, in Osaka, Japan. A show that, top to bottom, was a very strong show, as most New Japan shows are. The usual formula is pretty decent undercard matches with a lot of great action in the second half with the main events, but I think on this show the undercard matches were a lot better than normal. A lot of those undercard matches that I didn't expect to go as long as they did or be as good as they were really good. So that really adds a lot more to the overall quality of the show. Now, I tried to watch it live as it aired here in my time zone of 3 a.m. And I'm usually able to do it, but every now and then I can't always do it, and I had a pretty busy day, so I tried to push through, but I could not. There was this, after a certain point, I managed to watch a lot of the matches, but some of them kind of was fading in and out, and I just had to accept that I wasn't going to be able to do it, and I, just had to go to bed, and then as soon as I woke up, I resumed the show and finished out the remaining matches that I did not watch live. But that does not hurt the quality of the show overall. I watched the whole show. I just watched it with about a 5-hour gap in between. But I still really very much enjoyed the show. So we'll go ahead and start from the very beginning, and that was the opening match with one of the Young Lions, Shota Umino, taking on the new IWGP United States Champion Jon Moxley in a non-title match, of course. And in case you've been living under a rock, Jon Moxley, the former Dean Ambrose in WWE, debuted at AEW Double or Nothing a few weeks ago, but along with that, he was revealed to be the man who was carving out an hourglass in a bar and targeting Juice Robinson, and the two men had a match for the IWGP US Championship at the finals of the Best of the Super Juniors tournament, where it was a really great match, and in the end it was Moxley who got the win and won the championship. So it's very cool seeing him in New Japan. Very weird. It's going to take a lot of getting used to seeing him in New Japan, but I like it so far, and I like that we're going to see more of him, but we'll get to that in a little second. The match really wasn't much. It was just really a showcase for Moxley, although he did give Umino some offensive spots in there and sold really well for him. But in the end, it was Moxley who got the win with the double underhook DDT, or the Death Rider, as he calls it, which, might I say, far superior name than Dirty Deeds. Just superior in every way. But yeah, he gets the win. After the match, he gets on the microphone and he says a lot of stuff, but the main thing that he says is he wants in on the G1 climax. So Jon Moxley is gonna be, he wants in. It's not official that he's in, but I think it's pretty much a guarantee at this point that he's going to be in it. So Jon Moxley in the G1 Climax. That should be fun. And of course, if you don't know, the first night of the G1 Climax, I'm not sure on the date, but it is going to be airing live in the United States, and I believe it's going to be on Access TV, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, so the first night of the G1 is going to air, for the first time, will be in the United States. So it'll be cool to see that, and it'll be cool to watch this year knowing that someone like Jon Moxley will be in it. And he's not the only person who announced his intentions to be in the G1, because that came right after this next match, which was Satoshi Kojima taking on Shingo Takagi, the runner-up in the finals of the Best of the Juniors tournament. This was about a junior heavyweight versus a regular heavyweight, with Takagi being the junior and Satoshi being the main heavyweight. At one point in this match, there was a spot where Kojima was just chopping the shit out of Takagi's chest, and just rapid fire chops right to his chest, which I just thought was really brutal, but it was really cool to watch. But Yeah, a lot of back and forth action here. Too many spots to call, and plus I watched it many hours ago, so I don't remember every single thing, but I do know that it was after the last of the dragon that Takagi got the win. So the junior heavyweight beats the heavyweight, and that was kind of his main point, because he got a little promo of his own after the match saying that, you know, a junior can hang with a heavyweight, and he also wants to be in the G1 Climax. So along with Jon Moxley, we got Shingo Takagi throwing his name in the hat to be in this year's G1 Climax. So I'm all for it. Put him in. Up next, we got a tag team match. The representatives of Suzuki-gun, Zack Sabre Jr., and of course Minoru Suzuki, taking on Yoshihashi and Jushin Thunder Liger. A big thing about this match, and the commentators were focusing on it a little bit, was how Jushin Thunder Liger and Minoru Suzuki is a match that we might very well see. They seem to be on a collision course, and we got to see a little bit of interaction between the two of them in this match, but not a whole lot, which I assume was done by design, because this is going to be a match that we will see in the very near future, and I'm all for it. Of course, Suzuki is just the scariest motherfucker in the world, and speaking of Suzuki matches that I want to see very near in the future, Jon Moxley versus Minoru Suzuki. Minoru Suzuki needs to be in the G1 Climax, and he needs to be in the same block as Jon Moxley so we can get that match. Or even if he's not, at some point we need to see Moxley and Suzuki in a match, because that's just, like, Suzuki is the scariest fucker in the world, but I think the one person who would not be intimidated by him at all is Jon Moxley, and the two of them could just have a war. So that's a match that I need to see at some point. This finish, though, the finish of this match was very surprising. We saw Yoshihashi and Zack Sabre having like a series of counters and roll throughs and roll ups and all that kind of stuff, but it was in the end that Yoshihashi got a roll up on Zack Sabre Jr. and got the win for his team, which was quite a bit of a shock. The announcers played it up as a big surprise because they didn't expect that to happen, especially with Yoshihashi being the one to get the win. And after the match, of course, Suzuki, typical Suzuki, throwing chairs and all that kind of stuff. But for Yoshihashi, he picked up Sabre's Rev Pro British Heavyweight Championship, and was kind of holding that over his head to indicate that he wants to be next in line for the shot. I think going in, he challenged him or expressed interest in challenging him, and Zack Sabre Jr. kind of laughed him off and didn't take him seriously. But after pinning him in this match, clearly that is a match that will be coming in the very near future. So very shocking finish to a pretty decent tag team match. Up next, we got a 6-man tag team match. It was representatives of the Bullet Club, Chase Owens, Taiji Ishimori, and Switchblade Jay White, taking on Juice Robinson, Taguchi, and Tanahashi, Hiroshi Tanahashi. We saw a more serious side of Juice Robinson in this match. Of course, no more dreads, got the shorter hair. He just lost the U.S. Championship, so he was, I'm sure, was pretty pissed off. So that's why we saw a much more serious side of him in this match. Tanahashi is just coming back from, it was it elbow surgery or something like that? Like, he has a pretty banged up arm, and it was still being worked over and being basically re-injured during the course of this match. But he was able to fight through the pain and got the win for his team. Now, I'm not sure what kind of move he used. He pinned Chase Owens. Jay White, who was trying to interfere, but Juice got him out with the was it the right hand of God or something like that big falcon punch kind of thing, and he took him out. And back in the ring, it was Tanahashi and Chase Owens, and he did like some kind of sling blade driving forearm, but it didn't really look all that good. But it doesn't matter, he still got the win. And he was selling his arm injury all the way to the back, and that was not the last of Tanahashi we saw on this show. Up next, we got the never openweight championship match. Champion Tai Chi taking on Tomohiro Ishii. Tai Chi won the championship a couple months back against Jeff Cobb, and not long after he won, I think it was on that same night that he confronted Tomohiro Ishii, telling him like, hey, congratulations for you. You get the first shot at my championship. This is a great thing for you. How generous of me to give little old you the first championship match. So he was bestowing the honor upon Ishii of being able to challenge him for the championship. So going into this match, of course, Tai Chi, he has this whole gimmick. He sings to the ring, even though he's not really singing. He has his valet. He's kind of like a more lover, not a fighter kind of gimmick. But he was a lot more competitive in this match than even I would have thought he would be. He was busting out some pretty aggressive moves on Tomohiro Ishii. And of course, Tomohiro Ishii is just incredible to watch. I remember the G1 Climax last year. He was probably the standout. So hopefully if he's in it this year, he's going to be the standout again. And mixing it up with some of the guys who, even on this show, proclaim they want to be in the in the tournament. But in the end, Ishii, kept hitting his moves, trying to get the win, but it was not enough to finish off Tai Chi. But he eventually hit his brain buster and got the win. So we see a new never openweight champion crowned on this show in Tomohiro Ishii. And like I said, hopefully we get to see more greatness from him in this year's G1 Climax. Up next, the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Championship match. The Gorillas of Destiny, Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa, with Jado at ringside with his kendo stick, taking on representatives of Los Ingobernables. My mind is all racing right now. Los Ingobernables de Japón, Evil and Sonata. Probably two guys who are about done with the tag team scene and are going to branch out as single stars, especially Sonata, who was just incredibly over. There was, at the beginning of this match, there was a part where, he was up on in the corner, posing for the crowd, and the crowd was going crazy for him, chanting his name, and then he, let Tama Tonga do the same thing, and he had mixed cheers. He's the good bad guy after all. And but yeah, it was more so about Sonata, and he's had a lot of great matches, especially a lot of great singles opportunities against the likes of like Okada and I think even Tanahashi and all that kind of stuff. And of course, Evil, he has had some singles shine too. So it's good to see them, teaming up. I like them as a team, but I'm pretty sure the time is going to be coming where they're going to branch out into singles roles on a more permanent basis. This match was good, but I'm pretty sure this is a match that we've seen a bunch of times, so there wasn't really much of anything new in this match. We did get a dueling submission hold spot. Sonata had the skull end on Tangaloa, while Evil locked Tama Tonga in a sharpshooter. And I forget who the legal men were, but I believe it was Tama Tonga and Evil. And it looked like he was going to tap out, but then Jado came in with his kendo stick. He took out the referee, and there was no one out there. He was beating down Evil and Sonata with the stick, when all of a sudden Ibushi, the other member of LIJ, he ran out there. He sprayed toxic mist, as Kevin Kelly on commentary called it. It was just black mist. He sprayed it in Jado's face. He took his kendo stick, started to beat him with the stick. He dove to the outside on the other Gorillas of Destiny members. And then eventually, he got out of the ring. The referee got back up. Evil and Sonata went for the Magic Killer, but Tama Tonga managed to escape it, and he rolled up Evil with a handful of tights to get the win. So the still IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Champions, the Gorillas of Destiny. And I thought something that was very interesting, and it's something that Don Callis mentioned, but they didn't really focus too much on it, was that after the match, when the champs left, Evil and Sonata kind of left separately. It looked like Sonata kind of left on his own while Evil was still in the ring for a little bit, and then he eventually left. So they didn't leave together, or they didn't stay out there together. They kind of left, separately. There was an amount of time in between the two of them leaving the ring. So I think that's another sign that we're going to see these two. I'm sure they're going to stay in the same faction, but I think the days of them teaming on a regular basis are about to come to an end, and we're going to see more singles action between the two of them, especially Sonata, who has a bright future ahead of him. He has a very unique look with the blonde Abraham Lincoln look, with the hair and the beard connecting and all that kind of stuff, the sideburns and all that kind of stuff. So he's very unique looking, but the dude's incredibly talented. Evil as well. Evil, of course, a lot bigger. So in WWE world, he would get the bigger push instead of Sonata. But no, both men very equal in talent and ability, and I see a bright future ahead of both of them and the singles role. So before the next match, we got an appearance by Katsuyori Shibata, who of course, is still recovering from that brutal skull injury he got, was it like 2 years ago at this point, against Okada? And he's been recovering. I'm pretty sure we haven't seen him wrestle at all. So he came out, he walked down the ramp and then was pointing back towards the entranceway for a very long time. We were waiting on something or someone to come out. And who should show up but Kenta, Hideo Itami in WWE or NXT or whatever. But Kenta making an appearance in New Japan. He walked out there. He got a big reaction once the people in the crowd recognized it was him. So he and Shibata get down to the ring. He takes the mic. He says, my name's Kenta, and you're going to get to know more of me because I want in on the G1 climax. So this is yet another guy who wants in on the G1, and another surprise name for the G1 climax. Kenta, might I say, already just walking out there in front of this crowd on this kind of show, already looked like much of a bigger star than he ever did in WWE, so that's great. Although early on in his NXT, like when he was first introduced, he seemed like a big star, but he was just plagued by too many injuries that kept him out and kept him off the shelf. I do think he would have had a bigger prominent position in the company had it not been for all those injuries, but it was just too much for him. But here on this show, it was good to see him looking like a big main event player, and I look forward to seeing what he does in the G1 climax. So another surprise addition to the G1. Up next, the winner of the Best of the Super Juniors, Will Osprey, challenged Dragon Lee for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. Dragon Lee and Will Osprey. What the hell kind of match you think is going to be? Absolute batshit insanity is what the hell it was. There's way too many things to even mention all of it. Just a lot of fast-paced action, craziness in this match. I don't even know where to begin. There was just so much that happened. There was one crazy spot early on, or maybe after. It was a little bit after the early part, and this was kind of where they kicked it into a second gear. Osprey, he was by the guardrail that was in front of the announcers, the ring crew and all that kind of stuff. He was right there. He was like propped up right there. And back in the ring, it was Dragon Lee. He dove through the ropes, almost lawn darted himself, and kind of went head first through the ropes, colliding into Will Osprey, and both of them tumbled over the announce tables and all that kind of stuff. It looked brutal. My words don't even do it justice. It looked very, very brutal. There was one point Osprey, he was standing up on the ring apron on the outside, and Dragon Lee, while still in the ring on the complete other side, he ran over and he dove over the top rope and hit a Hurricane Rana on Will Osprey off of the apron. But when Osprey came down, he landed on his feet, and so the two men had distance between them, and there was kind of this like slow turnaround. This is something we've seen with Will Osprey before with like Kota Ibushi and people like that, but they had this like kind of distant face-off kind of spot, which I thought was pretty cool. This led to them getting a little more back in the ring. Dragon Lee ended up hitting a diving foot stomp on Will Osprey, who was hung up on the top turnbuckle over the ring. Lee hit a very ugly looking Canadian destroyer, got his running knee, but it was only good for the 2 count. And I'm going through all these spots, and it sounds like, Osprey's the one getting his ass kicked, but Osprey was doing some crazy stuff in this match too. At one point, after he got hit with a Hurricane Rana from Dragon Lee, he kind of was playing dead a little bit. He came off the ropes and he hit a Spanish Fly, which I usually don't like. I don't like seeing a guy get spiked headfirst into the mat and then just prop him right back up and hitting a move. I know he collapses right afterwards, and it's like, oh, well, he just on instinct. His body's on autopilot or something like that. It's like, maybe, but I don't really like all that much. So in the end, Dragon Lee, he was going for his finisher when Osprey managed to leap out of it. He gave him a super kick to the back of the head. He hit him with the hidden blade and a Os cutter from the top rope, but it was the Stormbreaker that finished him off. He hit the Stormbreaker and got the 1-2-3. So Will Osprey, the brand new IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, Junior Heavyweight Champion once again. I forget what number reign this is for him, but he is once again the champion. After the match, Dragon Lee was still out there. He showed him respect. He strapped the championship around his waist, and the two basically embraced and all that kind of stuff, and he was escorted out. And then Osprey left the ring. He went over to ringside by the announcers, grabbed the microphone, and made a challenge to Robbie Eagles for a championship match between the two of them at the New Japan Melbourne show. That's coming up pretty soon. They're going to have a show in Melbourne, Australia, and he challenged Robbie Eagles, who is a Melbourne native, to a match. I think Robbie, I'm not familiar with him, but I know he was, I think, the only guy in the Super Juniors tournament to beat Will Osprey, or at least one of the only guys. So he's giving him the first championship match in his hometown, so that should be a good match, just like this one was. Speaking of good matches, and also very scary and terrifying matches, that can only mean one thing: Kota Ibushi. Up next was the IWGP Intercontinental Championship match, with Kota Ibushi defending the championship against Tetsuya Naito. Osaka does not like Naito all that much. He is not well liked, although it seems like every time they come here and do a Dominion show in Osaka, the fans boo him, but as the match goes on, they start to cheer for him and get behind him, and that's basically what happened here. But very early on, they did not like Naito all that much, and Naito was playing up his whole douchebag, heelish tendencies again, kind of berating the crowd and all that kind of stuff, and just being the Naito that we all know he is. But the scares didn't come. Now, like I said, it's a Kota Ibushi match, so you're gonna be terrified at some spot in the match. Almost every single Kota Ibushi match I've ever seen in my life has had some spot that scares the shit out of me, and we got it in this one. Both men were on the ring apron. They were fighting and going at it. Both men were trying to German suplex the other off of the apron there, but it was Naito who managed to get it. But in doing so, he German suplexed Kota Ibushi on the apron, and he tumbled off. But when he did it, Ibushi's head and neck, like his head, landed in a way where it curved and was on its side and looked like it bent his neck a little bit. It was ugly. Even describing it, it was just brutal looking. It was very ugly. He was outside for a very long time. It looked like he was dead. He barely broke the 20 count. He got back in, and Naito went right after him, propped his basically dead corpse up on the top turnbuckle, and hit him with a reverse Hurricane Rana off the top. So right after landing on your neck, you get a move that you land off the top turnbuckle and land right on the top of your head. So beautiful stuff. Naito attempted what was about 50 Destino attempts. This was one of his first ones. He attempted the Destino. He got caught, and hit with a underhook pile driver from Ibushi, and he landed, and like the force of it kind of spiked his neck into the mat too. It looked like the tombstone pile driver that the Undertaker gave Goldberg in that embarrassing atrocity of a match in Saudi Arabia on Friday, this past Friday. So it was bad enough we saw that, so we had to see something similar here. Very brutal. Ibushi went for the Bomaye knee at one point. It missed. Naito got out of the way. He hit him with a German suplex. Got him with the Destino, but it was only good for a 2 count. He tried to hit the Destino again. This time Ibushi escaped. He got him with a knee, hit him with the last ride powerbomb, and again, only good for a 2 count. He attempted the Kamigoye knee, but Naito managed to dodge it and hit him with a spiked DDT. He tried to go for the Destino again, but Ibushi managed to counter it and try to get out of it, but then he got laid out once again by Naito and got hit with the Destino once and for all to get the win and regaining the IWGP Intercontinental Championship. So once again, Naito is the champion. Still don't give a fuck about that belt. And after the match, it looked like, they're both in the ring. It looked like he was going to give Ibushi some respect. Going into this match, they said, this is the end of it, at least for a while, between the two of us. No more rematches, no that kind of stuff. This is going to be it. And it looked like he was going to, Naito was, give Ibushi some respect, but no. In typical Naito fashion, he stood tall and put his foot, planting it on Ibushi's head and face, and held his championship above his head, and then left the ring. Because that's how Naito is. Tranquilo, right? So yeah, Naito's still the champion. Ibushi is somehow still alive, which is something I question how he's able to walk out of these matches, not unscathed, but alive. But somehow he is still alive after this match, and obviously I expect both of these men to be in the G1, and maybe they'll mix it up again. But Ibushi losing the Intercontinental Championship kind of lends to my prediction as to who will win the G1 Climax this year. So I think that pretty much gave it away. But yeah, that's what I expect to happen. And then we get to the main event, the Rainmaker versus the Painmaker, which I have to tell you, Jericho. I love Jericho to death, but the name is so lame. I get it, it's who he's facing and it's a play off that, but still, it's very lame. But yes, it was IWGP Heavyweight Championship match. Kazuchika Okada defending against Chris Jericho. They dubbed over the Judas theme. Now, I watched this match early this morning, so I don't know if they had to redub it after the show already aired or if they did it during the show while it was live. But it looked like they dubbed over because, there was a little graphic that said, this music's been dubbed over due to copyright reasons. So I guess no more Judas in New Japan. I guess that's an exclusive to AEW, which, of course, Jericho is property of AEW. He's going to be challenging for the AEW World Championship in August at All Out. So, yes, more evil Chris Jericho taking on Okada, and like you'd expect, it was a good brawl. It was not the traditional wrestling type match that you would see from Okada, although Okada brought a lot of the wrestling to it, and Jericho hung in there with him, but it was more so of a brawl. Like most Jericho New Japan matches, they eventually fought over by the announcers and all that kind of stuff, and much like he did with Naito, Jericho hit Okada with a DDT on one of the tables. A little bit later, Okada tried to go for one of his signature moves on the outside, which is, having the other guy on the other side of the guardrail by the fans, and he runs across and does a dive over it. He tried to do that, and he hit the dive, but ended up getting caught with a code breaker in midair. A little bit later on in the ring, Jericho, who was just taunting and berating Red Shoes, the referee, just constantly in the match, pie-facing him and just, talking all kinds of shit to him. He backed him into the corner at one point. He had his back turned to Okada, and when he turned back around, he walked right into a drop kick. So, a beautiful drop kick, of course, by Okada, as they all are. Jericho, he tried to dive off the top rope and got caught again with a drop kick in midair and got hit with a tombstone, which was really cool to see, but it didn't really add to anything. I believe it was Okada who Irish whipped Jericho into the corner. He tried to hit him with a drop kick coming off, but Jericho kind of stayed into the ropes, and no one was there. And that's when he hit Okada with the lion salt. It was only good for a 2 count. He started to beat down on Okada did. He was back up a little bit later. He started to beat down on Jericho in the corner, just raining down blows on him. He even pushed the referee aside for a second. And he backed up into the other corner across the ring, lunged at Jericho, but got caught with a code breaker in midair. And it was a very close near fall. I thought for a split second that Jericho was going to be able to pull it off. Because the whole time during this match, because I didn't check Twitter, so I didn't know what the outcome was, I was just thinking in my head, like, what if Jericho actually wins the IWGP Championship? Like, would that be the craziest thing? I think it would be, but would it be that crazy? But, yeah, it was a very close near fall. Both men traded finishers at one point. Jericho attempted to hit Okada with a Rainmaker, but Okada blocked it, and Okada ended up hitting Jericho with his own version of the code breaker, but it was only good for a 2 count. We saw Jericho lock in the walls of Jericho multiple times in the match, and eventually turning it into the Lion Tamer, but Okada managed to escape it. Jericho went for his new finishing move, the Judas Effect, which is that back elbow that he used to beat Kenny Omega at Double or Nothing. He attempted the move. Okada ducked it, managed to go for the Rainmaker, but then Jericho ducked it. Jericho went for the code breaker, and Okada caught him, and the two were kind of rolling through, and in the process, Okada put himself in a position to kind of sit down and land on Jericho's shoulders to get a roll-up win. So Okada, by the skin of his teeth, beats Chris Jericho to retain his championship, and of course, that don't sit too well with Chris Jericho, who went on to attack Okada after the match, just started to beat him down, rain down blows on him, got a chair, hit him in the head with the chair, which we barely see these days, but he did it. He brought him to the outside, he wrapped the chair around his neck and throat, and rammed him right into the steel post, and he brought him over on the other side by a table that was set up a little bit earlier in the match by Chris Jericho. He was attempting a powerbomb when who should come to the rescue but Hiroshi Tanahashi. Now, for the last 2 matches on the show, Tanahashi was out there on commentary, on Japanese commentary, and he was calling the action, and I saw him for the Intercontinental Championship match, and I noticed that they showed him again for the main event, so I'm like, that's interesting. And then when we saw the finish and Jericho attacking Okada, I'm like, okay, now I see what's going on here. So Tanahashi, jumps over the guardrail. He starts to, lunge at Jericho, starts to try to throw punches and all that kind of stuff at him. But a bunch of the officials at ringside and the young lions and all that kind of stuff was holding him back. Jericho managed to get up the rampway. He got a microphone, was talking shit. He took some of the Okada dollars that rained down during his entrance. He took some of them, was rubbing them on his crotch and shoving them and smearing them into the camera. Then he left, and Tanahashi assisted Okada back up and walked him to the back, and that's how they ended it. So no closing promo or anything like that from Okada, and that was the show. And like I said, I enjoyed it. I thought top to bottom it was a great show. The main event was really good. Okada and Jericho had a really great match. Naito and Ibushi, as fucking terrifying as it was with some of those spots, I thought it was a great match. Of course, Dragon Lee and Will Osprey was probably the best match of the night. Had a terrific match. And a lot of the undercard matches were really good too. Ishii and Tai Chi had a really good match. The tag team championship match, like I said, we've seen it a million times, but it was still really good. So a lot of great action on this show. And yeah, like I mentioned earlier, the G1 Climax is going to have its first night be in the States. I believe next month is when that's going to happen. So I'm going to be paying very close attention to that. I'm going to follow that as closely as possible, and I'll have a review of the finals when we get to that point. And yeah, that's it for me right now. Can't really think of a whole lot else that's going to be coming up pretty soon, New Japan related. But yeah, it was very good to see New Japan in this show just days after sitting through and for whatever reason watching Super Showdown or Saudi Blood Money Show Part 3. Especially after that Goldberg Undertaker match. That was just an embarrassment, man. Two icons who I grew up loving, seeing them out there in that capacity was just not good. So having a show like this come just a little over 24 hours later was very refreshing. So great show, great stuff, and I look forward to seeing the next New Japan show. So until then, take care.